All right, Steve. So you're doing double duty today, as you sometimes do for us. I mean, schlong. It's all about Robert Hur's schlong. I bet that wasn't your take in watching the events yesterday.
Keith, I don't know where Keith's mind is these days. I have to say, it's funny, but we had Buck Sexton on yesterday talking about some media stories and how CNN has no interesting people that have unique takes on it. And that, listen to that from Keith. I mean, it's completely unhinged, but man, that is some interesting commentary from the former MSNBC host.
That's fresh. You're not going to hear that anywhere else, and that's for good reason. So it's been amazing, though, to watch like the people run to try to do some cover. There is a piece in the Wall Street Journal today, an op-ed. The Wall Street Journal is obviously more right-leaning, but the opinion reads, this is Bill McKibben, age matters, which is why Biden's age is his superpower. It's all actually a big advantage to him, you see, because he's got the knowledge of several presidencies, and they have altered his judgment and made him swing big for the fences. And all this petty stuff about memory is just something that everybody experiences.
Oh, yes. Actually, Los Angeles Times for this one, I've seen people share it and say this is why they're getting rid of 1/3 of their newsroom. They're running stuff like this. No, I think that this is the logical next step for a media that's going to try to cover for Joe Biden. I do think that there's a very real open question about what the corporate press does next. And I think what the corporate press does next is a real indication of what the Democratic Party and the apparatus around Joe Biden wants to do next. We've started to see a little bit of cracks in the seams there with an NBC News report that I thought was well done, that really documented what actually is going to happen. But if they're going to really try to trot out this Joe Biden and continue down this path, I think that this is the avenue they're going to go. That Joe Biden is, yes, he's old, and even he admitted during that press conference he's elderly, but wisdom, what comes with age is real wisdom, and he's so much less bad than Donald Trump because he's not dangerous. He's just a nice old man rather than a terrible old man who they have on the other side. So I think that this is going to be the talking point if they choose to go down this route.
Well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. That's it. That's what the special counsel said. Well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. I mean, it's going to go on bumper stickers for sure. At least that second part. So here's some more reaction. Matt Iglesias, Bloomberg columnist. This is fucking bullshit. Appoint a Republican special counsel to investigate. He investigates. His investigation does not reveal a crime. So instead of saying all good, he goes off and does partisan political hits. Tommy Vietor, former Obama staffer, now podcast host. Robert Hur clearly decided to go down the Jim Comey path of filling his report, absolving President Biden of criminal activity with ad hominem attacks, like calling him an elderly man with a poor memory. Not remotely subtle, just a right-wing hit job from within Biden's own DOJ. Wild. And then there's the bit about October 8th and 9th when he sat. That's my favorite part of what happened yesterday.
Right. They're going to try to find any possible way of doing this. I have to say, it is kind of funny, though, to see the immediate defense as being that the person, the special counsel, is somehow a right-wing hack. I mean, it's a total inverse of what we saw back when the Donald Trump and the Trump administration went and attacked the Mueller report as that he was somehow partisan, and it was all this witch hunt against him in an area that, essentially, as Trump says, absolved him. Now we're seeing the reverse of it. But at the time, the media would not let that fly. Of course not. No, that's completely outrageous. How dare you attack a special counsel? This is an objective person. Now it's somehow this person is out to get Joe Biden. But I do think, though, that like I said, what happens next? There was this a really interesting tweet that came out. This was before the Biden press conference, but after the report came out by Astrid Herndon of the New York Times. And this is someone who has I would say he is one of these great reporters that I think he's great in the sense that he puts all his thoughts out on social media. He just puts it all out on X. And so it's kind of embarrassing and undermining because now we know what he really thinks when he's supposed to be an objective reporter. But he did this during in 2021 when the Virginia governor race was coming out. Anyway, so he's very honest about it, and which is to a fault, I think, for his organization. But he said that this is something that's clearly important, a non-Trump issue, important to the electorate, and that it is a White House and DC kind of establishment coziness gentleman's agreement to pretend like Biden's age and memory and competency is not an issue. And then he said, maybe that ends now. Yeah, I'd say so. And he got pushback from people like Chris Hayes on social media, but he's absolutely right. It was a gentleman's agreement. Does that gentleman's agreement now go away because it's so embarrassing and potentially damaging for the Democrats in their fight with Donald Trump in 2024? That's the real question. And we're going to see that play out. And we're going to see it play out on the Sunday shows on Sunday. How do they cover this? We're going to get a real sense of whether the media is going to turn on Biden and the agreement is sort of off at this point.
The agreement is such a farce. It's not like the Kennedy years when he was cheating on his wife and, they chose not to report on those infidelities. This is whether he's capable of actually being the leader of the free world. He has access to the nuclear codes. There's no gentleman's agreement here. It's all street fighters. And that's, by the way, what the press is supposed to be anyway, challenging authority. Right. I want to give the audience, we've done some good work on these sound bites, giving them reaction on like the crazy spin and meltdowns, the Rachel Maddow bike comment. Take a listen to some flavor in SOT 14.
Let's call it what it is. This is ageism snuck into a report clearing the person of any wrongdoing. If you want to get into the ageism, young people are told all the time by their lawyers, hey, you're way better off leaning into I don't recall than possibly misstating something to a federal officer.
If someone says you're too far left, you can tack to the center. The man is 80 years old.
He rides a bike.
But he is the age he is.
Oh my God. Okay. You're much better off saying, I don't recall. About when your son died? How is that a helpful thing to dodge on? About when you were vice president? That's like a matter of fact. You're not going to be able to obfuscate on that. And this is what an absurd attempt at defending him.
That's exactly right. It's one thing to make that argument about the classified documents aspect of the special counsel's report here. But as you laid out, the most damaging part about this is not going to be the fact that he wasn't criminally charged, but he still mishandled documents. And, as I've seen another spin, by the way, from people like Jeffrey Toobin, who suddenly showed up back on CNN last night for some reason. I don't know what was going on with that. He said, every politician, not just presidents, vice presidents, everyone takes classified documents. This is a total nothing burger, as was proven there. Okay, sure. But what was put in there, the conversations about being vice president and not knowing when that was, 2009, 2013. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And those are the kinds of things that you can't get around. These are the things that are not related to criminality, but are related to electability. Not everyone in the media is going to be MSNBC, which spun incredibly for about 10 minutes after the press conference ended, and then immediately changed the subject completely. They started talking about the Supreme Court in Colorado and all other kinds of, and CNN actually did almost the same thing. They were done with this press conference within about 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe they went back to it later on, but they quickly pivoted. And I think that was very clear in the moment. It might not be that way forever, but right then they were like, we got to get out of this. This is
we
bad.
Were riveted. Our team was we all have a group text. All of us were texting each other like, oh my God. And when he came back out, it was like I wouldn't say he stuck the landing because the whole thing had been, pretty disastrous for him, but it wasn't as bad as when he came back out and then the perfect cherry on top of the sundae, forgetting who the president of Egypt is. Well, I guess he knows he's the president of Egypt, but he said he's the president of Mexico. I'm not sure which he was confusing, but it was like, you could just feel, and then he turned to walk back off. I don't know if you saw this, but he walked back off to what was clearly an open door. You couldn't see the door. You could just see where he was going to walk. And there were arms, the way you do with your toddler. You have 2 little ones. Come here, you're good. Come here, sweetheart. You're almost there. 2 more steps.
So close. By the way, I saw a great defense. Biden's, I guess it was communications director, Kate Bedingfield, I believe her name is now a CNN contributor. And so immediately after the speech, you have a person who literally was spinning for Joe Biden's administration just a few months ago. Now she's acting like a pundit. And, they say that she did work for Joe Biden, but come on. By the way, she spun that as, look at the substantive answer he gave on Israel and Gaza. And now we're just going to focus. It's on us that we're going to focus on the fact that he said Mexico instead of Egypt. But really, he's so engaged and has so much. It's I mean, that's the new spin. Yes,
it's what we call
so
part of a pattern. Part of a pattern, man. The New York Times headline: in fiery remarks, President Biden hit back against a special counsel's claims that he mishandled classified files and has memory problems. That's the headline. Fiery remarks in which he hit back. That's not it.
Defiant.
That is not it.
Right? I saw several headlines that described it as defiant. Yes, he was defiant.
And Republicans pounce.
This is the spin. Right. Oh, yeah, of course. Immediately the next day's story. People are going to pounce on this. And that is actually probably, now that you say it, probably where the media goes. I think if we're looking this time next week, how do we remember it? If, again, the caveat, if we really think the Democratic establishment is going to continue trotting out Joe Biden, yeah, it's going to be the overreaction to it. What Republicans start to talk about the 25th Amendment, how dare they compare that to Donald Trump? We saw people like Dan Goldman already spinning this. How dare you, the media, focus on these little gaffes when you've got someone like Donald Trump who's going to destroy democracy if he's put in office in 2025. So I do think that that's kind of the next step of it. But what's amazing about this, the reporting, is that Biden's staff believes that the best version of him is when he's angry, is when he's fighting. And that is what they hope to do. Now, we don't know, as Ben talked about in the last segment, whether he overrode his staff and said, I want to do it right now, rather than maybe sitting back, maybe doing it this afternoon, waiting a little bit of time, thinking it more through. But they believe that it's the way to combat the kind of confused, a little bit, walking on eggshells, Joe Biden, is to get him angry. They think that's their best version. That's their best hope. I'm not sure that's true.
True or false? Using your tax refund to pay off credit card debt is smart. False. Donewithdebt.com published a strategy designed to let you keep your hard-earned tax refund. Wouldn't that be nice? And also reduce or even eliminate credit card debt. Most Americans owe thousands in credit card debt that will take years to pay off, if ever. Done with Debt found that filing bankruptcy is usually not the answer, and taking out loans to pay off credit cards usually increases your debt. When you engage Done with Debt, their legal experts and skilled negotiators take on the credit card companies for you. Their winning strategies are designed with one goal: solve your debt situation quickly and permanently. First things first, chat with a Done with Debt strategist and explore your solutions. Some debt fighting strategies are time sensitive, though, so you're going to need to move quickly on this. For a free consultation, visit donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.